The NFL world was shaken to its core on Wednesday when news broke that would leave millions of football fans in disbelief. Jim Irsay, the passionate and controversial owner of the Indianapolis Colts, had passed away in his sleep, bringing an end to one of the most complex and fascinating stories in professional sports. But this isn't just another obituary. This is the story of a man who lived multiple lives, a champion, a philanthropist, a collector of legendary artifacts, and someone who fought demons that nearly destroyed him time and time again. When Peyton Manning, the face of the Indianapolis Colts franchise, posted his tribute on Instagram, you could feel the raw emotion bleeding through every word. "I am heartbroken to hear about Jim Irsay's passing," Manning wrote. "He was an incredibly generous and passionate owner, and I will always be indebted to him for giving me my start in the NFL." Think about that for a moment. One of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history calling out a team owner who gave him his chance. That's not corporate speak, that's genuine gratitude from a legend to the man who believed in him. Jim Irsay's story reads like something out of a Hollywood screenplay, except it's all devastatingly real. He started as a ball boy for his own family's team, working his way up through every single position in the organization. Can you imagine that journey? From fetching footballs and water bottles to making million-dollar decisions that would shape the future of an entire franchise. The Colts weren't always in Indianapolis. Irsay's father bought the team when they were still in Baltimore back in 1972. Then came that infamous night in 1984, the Mayflower moving trucks rolling through Baltimore under cover of darkness, relocating the entire franchise to Indianapolis. It was one of the most controversial moves in sports history, and young Jim Irsay inherited all of that baggage along with the team. But here's where the story gets incredible. Instead of running from the controversy, Irsay embraced Indianapolis with everything he had. He didn't just own a football team there, he became part of the city's DNA. The construction of Lucas Oil Stadium wasn't just about building a venue. It was about creating a cathedral for football in the heartland of America. And then came 2007, the year everything clicked. Peyton Manning under center, a roster built for greatness, and Jim Irsay watching from the owner's box as his Indianapolis Colts defeated the Chicago Bears in Super Bowl 41. Picture that moment, a man who started as a ball boy holding the Lombardi Trophy as confetti rained down around him. That's the American dream playing out on the biggest stage in sports. But success in the NFL was only part of Jim Irsay's story. Away from the cameras and the cheering crowds, he was building one of the most incredible collections of American cultural artifacts you've ever seen. We're talking about guitars played by legends like Bob Dylan and Jerry Garcia, manuscripts written by literary giants, items that told the story of American culture through music, sports, and literature. Irsay didn't just collect these treasures to hide them away in some private vault. He took them on tour, sharing them with millions of people across the country. Think about that philosophy, using your wealth not just to own pieces of history, but to make sure everyone could experience them. That wasn't about showing off. That was about understanding that culture belongs to all of us. The Colts organization released a statement that perfectly captured this spirit. Jim's generosity can be felt all over Indianapolis, the state of Indiana, and the country. He made philanthropy a daily endeavor. He never hesitated to help countless organizations and individuals live better lives. But here's where Jim Irsay's story becomes profoundly human, and why his passing hit so hard for those who knew him. Behind all the success, the Super Bowl victories, the incredible collections, and the charitable work, there was a man fighting battles that nearly destroyed him. Irsay was brutally honest about his struggles with addiction. In a 2023 interview with HBO Sports, he revealed he had been to rehab for alcoholism and painkiller addiction at least 15 times. 15 times. Let that sink in. Here was a billionaire with access to the best treatment money could buy, and he still had to fight this demon over and over again. He hadn't touched alcohol since 2002, but the struggle with prescription painkillers continued to haunt him. In December 2023, police responded to a 911 call from his home, finding him unresponsive with a bluish skin tone. The report described it as a suspected overdose, though he was later diagnosed with a respiratory illness. This wasn't some tabloid scandal. This was a man being transparent about the reality of addiction, showing that wealth and success don't make you immune to these struggles. By being open about his battles, Irsay was sending a message to anyone else fighting similar demons. You're not alone, and there's no shame in getting help. The fact that he continued working, continued contributing to his community, continued Sharing his passion for music and culture while fighting these personal battles makes his story even more remarkable. He could have retreated from public life, but instead he kept showing up, kept giving back, kept trying to make the world better. Tom Brady's simple comment on Manning's tribute post RIP with prayer and heart emojis spoke volumes. When you can, move legends like Brady and Manning to publicly express their grief. You've made an impact that goes far beyond wins and losses. During his final months, Irsay had become less visible, dealing with health issues that stemmed from a fall at his home. Those who worked with him noticed the change, but he never stopped caring about the team and the community that had embraced him for decades. Even on his final day, an account associated with Irsay posted a message of support for the Indiana Pacers. Go Pacers! Good luck to Herb, the entire Pacers organization, and our city. Right until the end, he was cheering for Indianapolis sports, supporting his community, thinking about others. The legacy Jim Irsay leaves behind is complicated, multifaceted, and ultimately inspiring. Yes, he owned an NFL team and won a Super Bowl. Yes, he built an incredible stadium and assembled amazing collections. But more than that, he showed us what it means to be authentically human in a world that often demands perfection. He showed us that you can battle addiction and still make meaningful contributions to society. He showed us that wealth comes with responsibility not just to make money, but to lift up others. He showed us that being passionate about something, whether it's football or music or helping people, can drive you to create something bigger than yourself. According to reports, his eldest daughter, Carly Irsay Gordon, is expected to assume principal ownership of the Colts, with all three of his daughters potentially working together as co-owners. The team will continue, the legacy will persist, but the man who transformed a franchise and touched countless lives is gone. Jim Irsay's death at his home on Wednesday afternoon marks the end of an era in Indianapolis and in the NFL, but his impact on players like Peyton Manning, who got their start under his ownership, on a city that embraced him as one of their own, on fans who experienced the joy of a Super Bowl victory, and on countless individuals and organizations that benefited. From his generosity, that impact will endure. In a world that often focuses on controversy and conflict, Jim Irsay's story reminds us that people are complex, that redemption is possible, and that the measure of a life isn't just success or failure, but how much you give back and how many lives you touch along the way. Rest in peace, Jim Irsay. Thank you for showing us that being human, with all its struggles and triumphs, is enough. Thank you for reminding us that passion, generosity, and the courage to keep fighting can create a legacy that transcends any single achievement. The number 18 will forever be retired in Indianapolis, not just for Peyton Manning, but for the man who believed in him and built something special in the heartland of America.